Hi, welcome to Hunting Illinois podcast. With us today, we have Dan, Curtis, and Lauren. So we're the Illinois Learn to Hunt team. We're going to be talking today about just how our season's been going. We've been doing a lot of mentored hunts, and we've all been getting out, and we've all, even though we've been hunting for years, we're still learning some new things. I know I've made some mistakes already this year that I haven't ever before, so I'll tell you all about that. But before we get going on that and kind of the season updates, we have some outdoor news and some season reminders. So, Dan, you want to take away for outdoor news?
Yeah, so just kind of want to pass along a couple interesting opportunities for mentor deer hunting that are upcoming in Illinois. So IDNR announced a few different mentored hunts. One will be at Kickapoo State Recreation Area, and the hunt is scheduled between December 16th and January 3rd. And you currently have until the end of November 29th to apply. So if you check our Facebook page, or we'll also put links down in the description and the show notes, depending where you're listening to this, you can find direct links to those press releases that then have links to that application page. So again, these are mentored deer hunting opportunities. And what's really unique about these opportunities, especially the Kickapoo, I think the Kickapoo hunt is on its fourth or fifth year.
Yeah,
probably close
fourth.
To that. And I've been on several of those hunts with participants in the past and have had a lot of success. So these are areas that typically don't have hunting. So like the Kickapoo example, you're hunting a lot of the campground. So the campground is typically closed to any hunting pressure. But the biologists and land managers started to notice, hey, there's overabundant populations of deer in these areas. And so we need to reduce that herd. And so this is a great way to offer additional opportunities without taking away, opportunities from current hunters. So these are really unique. You're going to get a lot of experience. And the way they've kind of designed this is it's very tailored for the new hunter. And so there is a requirement that you can only have 3 years of deer hunting experience to apply. And so the way they're going to look is they'll go into your system and look at how many years you've actually purchased deer tags. So that's kind of the caveat there. But the nice thing is this is both for adults and youth, and they do allocate the same number of spots for youth as they do adults. So again, check out these opportunities. So again, it's at Kickapoo State Recreation Area as well as Fox Ridge. So check the links down below, and you'll have links directly to those press releases for more information and for a link to apply. Highly, highly recommend.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great program. It's my favorite thing that we've been a part of so far. I mean, I think it creates access. It does exactly what our program wants to do, right? It creates access. New hunters get to do it. And if it's successful, we can move to other spots. So they're opening up Fox Ridge for the first time this year. So hopefully we see that continue to grow. Land's expensive in this state, and I don't know if DNR is ever going to get more of it. If they do, that's awesome. But if they don't, we got to use what we already have. So they're looking at the resources that they have already in these campgrounds that are not pressured, and we can get people in there and help manage. And everybody always talks about, why don't they get hunters to do it? Well, here's a program that they're actually getting hunters to do the management for them.
Absolutely.
So we need people to apply for these and show that
there's interest.
In it, and then we can continue moving in it across the state. Hopefully, there's a lot of different campgrounds with a lot of deer in them that need to be cleared out. Honestly, you go over to Kickapoo. I mean, it's like squirrels. I mean, you pull in there. There's I remember we went over there to film a video one time in the summertime, and we pulled in. There was a group of 4 does here, a group of 5 does there. You have a video of about, literally 30 deer.
We'll even play it in this vodka.
Yeah. There's literally 30 does in a field.
And I'm waiting from a mentee. I'm like, hey, that one right there. Take that one. Take that one.
Yeah.
And literally 20 or 30 does in front of us. So you're going to have opportunity. And the nice thing is this program was designed, especially the Kickapoo, to be a pilot. So to go through this process, because there will be pre-set up blinds. So all you literally have to do, if you're selected on one of these hunts, show up with a mentor. Bring your equipment, but there's already a spot, there's already a blind. The biologists and land managers for those sites have put these blinds in areas where deer are going to frequently walk right in front of it. So it's a great opportunity to, again, get interest. And now that the Kickapoo hunt has shown successful, we should start seeing more and more expansion year over year. So this year, adding Fox Ridge, and hopefully each subsequent year adding 1 or 2 more sites until we really grow this thing into a statewide opportunity. But again, links down below. Check it out, get an application in, and hope you're successful in drawing a spot, because it's a really good opportunity.
Last thing to say on that is, if you need a mentor for this application, check out our Facebook page, and especially our Illinois Learn to Hunt Connections page. We have a lot of people on there who are past participants. Either one of us, if we're available, we'll come and help you out. But if not, you can reach out on there. Some folks have done that already this year, being like, I'm interested in applying for this, but I don't have anyone to go with me. So reach out on there, and we'll have some people reach out to you and see if they can go with you if they're available. So
I like it. And again, we're happy to take you if it fits within our schedule and our availability. But the way this hunt is operated, if you're successful, you will be awarded a 5-day block of time that you're allowed to hunt that site. And so again, if you do get selected, reach out to us as quick as possible to let us know and ask. And then we can start working to see if either we can help or we can try to connect you with a mentor either through the connection page or through some of our other channels. But definitely look into those opportunities. Another kind of important application, obviously, to talk about, that we're in the middle of rut. It's November. Deer is on the mind, but don't forget spring turkey. So that first application period ends December 1st. So that's coming up pretty quickly. So if you haven't submitted your first lottery application for a spring turkey permit, make sure to get that in. Again, links down in the show notes below.
Yep. I just did that yesterday.
Did you? I still need to do mine.
But it's at Explore More, Illinois.
Yep, so exploremoreil.com.
Yeah, so Explore More IL. IL. So the link will be below. But so they have a couple applications throughout the DNR website, depending on which one you're looking at. This one is through that general data, the database they use to apply for your regular base license.
Yeah. And I did see, I went through a couple weeks ago and was looking at the Public Lands Hunting Report, and they finally published the new one. So if you're still looking at different sites and trying to look at overall, how many hunters are out there? How many spring turkey did they harvest last year? That new report is out, so we'll put a link to that in the show notes too.
Key thing to remember when applying for spring turkey tags is if you're interested in doing public land, to apply for the name of the public land that you're applying for, they have the counties and the public land in the same drop-down menu. So make sure you don't click on a county by accident, because that's going to be for a private land tag or for a public site that accepts the county level tag. A lot of those sites are going to be in the south and the southeast. But
if you're curious how to find out if a site requires a site specific permit or if it requires a county level, if you go in the back of the digest, there's this huge table that probably looks a little cumbersome at first, but spend some time in there and start looking at the different columns and what the different kind of symbols mean. And so you'll see a bunch of sites that are listed for spring turkey. You'll see C, which means a county level tag can hunt that specific site, or if it's an S, it means it requires that site specific. So check out those tables in the back, and that'll tell you exactly what you need for an individual site.
And if the one I use all the time, because it's happened in the past, we've gotten contacted about it before, it's one near us in central Illinois would be Weldon Springs Piatt County Unit, and then also Piatt County. So be aware of the name of the site you're looking for. If you have any questions, contact that site. Or just double check that list to make sure there's not duplicates of similar named things. So just be aware.
I like it. And sticking with turkey, kind of one more news item here. Fall firearm turkey harvest, those numbers were released. So this year, turkey hunters in Illinois during the fall shotgun season harvested 292 birds, which is up about 10% from the previous year. And what's interesting is we didn't see a lot more permit sales. So permit sales were 1,756. Compared to 1771 last year. So those are pretty much neck and neck, but again, saw a 10% increase in that fall shotgun harvest. So cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. Has anyone seen any turkeys out bow hunting? Not to get off topic, but I haven't seen any.
We had a few sneak behind us. Well, I'm like 99% sure they were turkeys because they were just kind of hopping on a ridge behind us, and it sounded probably 4 or 5 of them, but I haven't got my eyes on any yet.
We heard gobbling at Clinton.
We did hear gobbling when we were out turkey hunting.
No, when we were out waterfowl
hunting. Oh, waterfowl. It's been a busy,
Yeah, dude, you've done a lot of hunts lately. Dan's been busy. But yeah, we're doing a mentored waterfowl hunt, which we'll kind of talk about. But as we're sitting in the waterfowl blind, we heard turkeys gobbling across the lake. So
that just lets you know what the time of, or what the weather is doing this year. Because it was probably 50s, 60s that day. It was warm.
Yeah,
it was pretty warm, and that turkey was out there gobbling. He was a little confused.
Yeah, I've seen several, but they've been on private land, so.
Yeah.
But still, nice to see them. Nice to know they're around.
Yeah, you got a good turkey archery spot. Hopefully you guys can connect on that sometime.
Yeah, and again, that's probably worth mentioning, worth reminding. If you're out archery hunting, you can still have a turkey permit in your pocket. What we were talking about there was just that fall shotgun season.
Mm-hmm.
The fall archery season is still underway. That kind of runs congruent with that archery deer. But again, make sure you have a turkey tag in your pocket.
And it's pretty cheap. And I mean,
it's worth it, yeah.
When my husband was out turkey hunting, he came home with a deer. Usually I think it's the other way around, but
very much so.
We'll take it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But speaking of deer, you ready to talk deer hunting?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the deer firearm season's coming up. So we're going to quickly go to a nice little snippet that Dan Skinner from IDNR put together for us. So we'll play that right now. And that's going to be kind of like a season update. So thanks, Dan, for putting that together. Here it is.
Hello, my name is Dan Skinner, and I'm the Forest Wildlife Program Manager for the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. I would like to share some important information about the ongoing 2024 Illinois deer hunting seasons, as well as other opportunities and essential guidelines for deer hunters in our state. Whether you're a seasoned hunter or planning your first trip, it's crucial to stay informed and prepared. Remember, the information I will be sharing with you today can also be found in our Illinois Digest of Hunting and Trapping Regulations, which you can pick up for free statewide at many of our license and permit vendors, or online at huntillinois.org. That's huntillinois.org. The archery deer season in Illinois will be taking its first break on Friday, November 22nd, when the first firearm season opens up. In counties open to firearm deer hunting, the archery season will be closed when the firearm season is open. Archery season will open back up around Thanksgiving from November 25th to December 4th, and then will open once more for its final run from December 9th until January 19th. There's still plenty of time to get out there and give archery deer hunting a try. The Illinois firearm deer hunting season runs in two segments, the 3-day weekend before Thanksgiving and the 4-day weekend after Thanksgiving. That means in 2024, first season will be November 22nd through 24th, and the second season will occur December 5th through 8th. These weekends are a prime time for hunters across the state, offering a chance to participate in one of the most popular outdoor activities. Remember, safety and adherence to regulations ensure a successful and responsible hunting season for all. Before heading out, make sure you're up to speed with Illinois' tagging requirements. Each hunter must have the appropriate deer permit for the season and specific county they plan to hunt in. Firearm and muzzleloader permits are always site or county specific. Archery permits, however, are valid statewide. When you successfully harvest a deer, you must immediately attach the harvest tag to the deer before moving it. This tag must remain attached until it's time to process the deer. Don't forget to report your harvest online or via phone by 10 p.m. on the day of the kill. This can be done online at www.exploremoreil.com or on telephone at 866-IL-CHECK. For hunters who harvest a deer during the firearm season in a CWD county, do not report online or on the phone. You'll need to physically bring your deer to a check station. More on that next. Chronic wasting disease, or CWD, is a concern for the Illinois deer population. As part of the efforts to monitor and control CWD, hunters in certain counties are required to bring their harvested deer to mandatory CWD check stations. This ensures that DNR can collect necessary data to assess the spread of the disease and to take appropriate measures to protect wildlife. For the 2024 firearm deer seasons, mandatory check stations are occurring in Boone, Carroll, DeKalb, Grundy, Joe Davis, Kane, Kankakee, Kendall, LaSalle, Livingston, McHenry, Ogle, Stevenson, Will, and Winnebago counties. A few notes on these check stations. There is no check station in Kane County, so successful firearm deer hunters from west of Route 47 in Kane County can choose from any of the open check stations from the surrounding counties. And on that note, our rules state that you need to take your deer to a check station if you're hunting in a CWD county, but you don't have to take it to the county in which you harvested it. So if you live in Belvidere and harvested a deer in eastern Joe Davis County, you could also stop and have it checked at the check stations in Stevenson or Winnebago or Boone County on the way home. Check stations are staffed by IDNR biologists and will run from 8 o'clock a.m. until 8 o'clock p.m. each day of the firearm season. You're required by law to bring your deer to the check station by 8 p.m. on the day of the kill. If you're unable to locate your deer in time to bring it to the check station by 8 o'clock that night, you need to have the deer at the check station the next morning at opening time, 8 a.m. Remember, to ensure safety during firearm seasons, Illinois law requires hunters to wear blaze orange or blaze pink clothing. This includes a cap and an upper outer garment displaying at least 400 square inches of solid blaze orange or blaze pink material. For those interested in expanding their hunting experience, Illinois offers additional upcoming seasons. The archery deer season provides hunters a longer time frame to enjoy the outdoors, running from October 1st through January 19th, with a break during the firearm season. There is no break in those counties close to firearm hunting, which include Cook, DuPage, Lake, and Kane County east of Route 47. The muzzleloader only season is scheduled for December 13th through 15th. Hunters with muzzleloader only permits can also hunt in the second firearm season. And the late winter antlerless only and special CWD seasons. These additional opportunities follow the firearm seasons and will be December 26th through 29th and January 17th through 19th, and provide an additional 7 days of firearm hunting opportunity while helping the department reduce deer populations in areas that are above our population objectives, and they aid us in the fight against chronic wasting disease. Thank you for your interest in deer hunting in Illinois, and I wish you a safe and successful hunting season.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Dan, for putting that together. So deer farm season is going to be this weekend.
I'm excited. I'm ready. The weather, it's been unseasonably warm. It's been a weird year, but it finally looks like we have some really cold weather coming. And just looking at the temp, like today here in central Illinois, it's like 62 degrees already outside. Mm-hmm. And then we're talking, the season starts on Friday. We're looking at a low in the, low 30s. We may actually get a frost with highs in the low 40s. So that's going to be a big temp change. And I expect to see quite a bit of activity that day. I'm excited to get out.
Yeah, last I looked up here, they're calling for some snow showers on.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Nothing to stick, but we're approaching cold.
Hey,
the first flurry.
I'll take it. That feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally feels normal.
Yeah.
So does anyone have any stories you want to share about them getting out?
Yeah, I had a pretty good hunt. I don't mind talking about
Go
first.
for it,
Just a couple days ago, I was out with a mentor on a piece of public land here in central Illinois. I think was it Friday? Yes, Friday. So that would have been pretty much peak rut still. I like to think November 10th is like peak, but we're still seeing rutting activity, the next week or two. No big issue there. But we started the morning pretty early, and that's one thing I like to focus on, especially during rut on public land, is getting in there as early as possible, just in case other hunters sneak in. I want to make sure I have the spot I want, that we are already there, we're set up, we're quiet, so that as other hunters start to push in, my area almost already becomes a sanctuary where everything else, there's people moving around, hanging tree stands. I'm nice and quiet, we're set up. So any deer come, they get pushed, immediately come our direction. And it played out that way. We got set up about 45 minutes before legal light, so we had quite a bit of time to sit there in the dark. Took a short little nap, as we normally do. And then about 10 minutes before legal light, we started to hear the of something sneaking to us. And the more you hunt, you'll really start to be able to, at least I feel like I can, start to pick up just the way an animal walks, whether it's a buck or a doe. Now, it's a little harder if it's a young buck and just a doe. Young bucks kind of act like does, but a big, mature buck has a very distinct way of walking. They're very slow. They'll take 2 steps, and they may stop for minutes. Where a doe, it's normally just this, just very consistent. They may take a few breaks, mill around, but a buck is very almost specific with every foot. And so I started to kind of pick up. I was like, this sounds like a buck, just kind of sneaking through. And again, it's pitch black. The moon was not up this night, so we couldn't see anything. And within like 10 minutes of legal light, this thing gets within 10, 12 yards. And we can see a silhouette, and we can see a little bit of antler reflection. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, it's coming from a direction we didn't want them to come. So we knew it was going to wind us. So it was just a matter of time. And we just kind of sat there with it, again, probably at 12 yards, just kind of hanging out there for 60 seconds to a minute. And then we hear this loud stomp. And whenever you hear a loud stomp, you know what comes next. And that deer snorted, took off running. So that was kind of how the morning played out. We didn't have a ton of action, late morning. We had a couple does catch us from, again, they snuck in behind us. The wind was perfect in our face. They were just coming from a direction we didn't anticipate. And so they busted us. And so we went back to the vehicles, had lunch, and my mentee was like, hey, I have a tree stand. Do you mind if I bring it out and you kind of show me how to use it? And I was like, honestly, that's perfect, because where we were sitting, if we had, just 6 or 7 foot of elevation, we'd be able to see out into this entire bottomland in front of us, just the way the landscape laid out. And so I was like, sure, let's bring it. And so we started heading back at probably 11:45, and we get back into the woods and hit our spot at about 12:15. And we're not quiet. We're just sitting there talking. I'm going through how to safely use this, how to, the harness, the climbing process with a climber, going through all that. And again, we hear a dreaded stomp from behind us. And again, it's probably 12:30 at this point, midday. If you've heard our podcast before on rut, you've probably heard how much I love the midday activity, especially on public land. It seems to be incredible with bucks. And I'll throw it over to you, Curtis, because I think you found or had a kind of a realization of kind of why that happens, that midday activity. You want to talk about that a little bit, and then I'll kind of jump right back into my story.
Well, yeah, I just heard somebody else talking about this, and it kind of made sense. But we always thought about it as a pressure standpoint, and that probably does play into it a little bit. But maybe even more of a driving factor of that is the buck knows that the does are bedded down at that point in time. So think about it. The buck's wanting to scent check as many does as possible. If he goes out at 7:30 a.m., 8 o'clock, who knows where they are?
They're everywhere. Yeah.
Anywhere. And so he's got a lot of work to chase all them down, scent check everybody to see who's getting close. But he knows, hey, if I wait till midday, I know exactly where they're going to be. It's a nice warm day. They're going to be bedded in the shade over here. I can just walk by downwind, scent check them all at once. They're not moving around. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. So I never thought about it from that standpoint, but it really does make a lot of sense. And that's why so many nice bucks are shot in that like 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. window. That's the middle part of the day when the does are sedentary probably. So, yeah, makes sense, right?
I think that's pretty spot on. Yeah. But yeah, so we were getting set up, and again, we hear that stomp. And where we were set up, we have kind of a slight ridge behind us that then drops off into a creek bottom. And so we can't really see the creek bottom from where we're at, just because there's just a slight inclination that doesn't allow us to see down there, which is why I thought, bringing that stand will allow you to get up over that and be able to look all the way down. And so we hear that stomp, and I look at her, and I'm like, that sounded like a deer stomp to me. Mm-hmm. And so I get on my hands and knees and start kind of army crawling up to that little ridge to look down into the creek bottom. And there's 3 mature bucks just all standing there. And I instantly hit the ground and kind of basically motioned to her, hey, there's 3 deer right here. And at this point, they're already within 50 yards. Like, they are right there. And so she finally starts getting settled, and they kind of work off, and then they just kind of slowly disappear into the woods on the other side of the creek. And we're sitting there for, I don't know, probably 30 minutes or so, and I just hear her. I'm sitting basically underneath her.
I was going to ask you, like,
she's up in the tree,
yeah.
And I'm directly at kind of the base of the tree, and I just hear pss, pss, pss. And I look up, and she goes over there. And then she gives me the symbol that there's 3 of them. Like, okay, we're back in business.
Wow.
They're just hanging out in that bottom. And we probably had them in front of us at this point from probably 1 until about 2. So they were just in that bottom, just milling around, getting drink from the creek a little bit, doing some rubbing on some trees. I got some video that will kind of overlay, rubbing on some trees, working some scrapes. And I thought about calling at this moment, but I was like, it's a little, I don't want to booger them out yet. We've still got like 4 hours of daylight here yet. Let's just see how they obviously want to be in this area. So let's see how this plays out. Yeah. And so we just kind of sit there and hunker down. And again, I can't see these deer. She's got a perfect view of them. She's having the time of her life. I'm just sitting up there like, okay. Just kind of, keep me informed if they do anything different. And so again, they work off into that woods on the other side of the creek, and they kind of disappear for a little bit. So I get a text from her that, I need to go to the bathroom. Okay, that makes, I need to do the same. And so she lowered her bow down. I took a little bit of a walk, probably 10 yards away, went to the bathroom myself. Mm-hmm. And literally the second I finished, here comes a spike running directly at me. And again, my hunter, her bow was on the ground, not with her because she was going to the bathroom too. So we were not prepared at that moment to shoot. But again, it's 2:30 and you got to go to the bathroom when you got to go to the bathroom. But this deer came all the way into, 15 or 16 yards, perfectly broadside. I've got good video. We'll play over this. But the thing just worked right down the exactly like we wanted. This is exactly the route that I expected all the deer to come when we set up in the spot. Came perfectly down the ridge, just cut right across in front of us, and was going to go drop down to that creek bottom. So that played out. That deer ended up coming into, again, 15, 16 yards. Busted out. It finally caught our wind, and I think as she was pulling, she noticed the deer was there, so she's slowly pulling her bow up. I think he probably caught some of that motion or sound and took off. So at this point, it's probably 2:30, 3 o'clock. We get kind of settled back in, and I hear the pss, 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 antlers again, and so again, at this point, it's getting close. It's 3:30, 4 o'clock. We have about an hour or so left of daylight. I'm like, if we're going to try something, we need to try something. So I sneak back up to that ridge, and I'm sitting here watching all these deer. And two of again, they were still mature bucks, but two of the smaller bucks kind of worked off. And then this big one I see just back there working a tree. And so I start grunting at him and grunt and grunt. And it took him a while to hear my grunt. The first couple I did, he was, again, working a tree with his antlers, so he probably couldn't hear or wasn't paying attention. He didn't give it any. So I did one really loud grunt. It didn't sound great, but I just wanted to get his attention. And instantly, his head looked, and then I started doing my normal soft grunts, just burr, burr, very soft. I even stomped the ground a little bit just to try to make it a little more realistic. And here he comes on a string. And so he was probably at 150, 175 yards when I started calling. And he came all the way into about 50 yards. Just right we needed just a little bit more, but he gave us a perfect show at 50 yards. Big mature buck, perfectly broadside. We've got some great video of him walking. It was just an awesome hunt.
You guys are some big bucks.
It was a fun day. Yeah. And again, this is all on public land. And so I just really want to emphasize public land gets a bad rap from a lot of people. We've talked to hunters who, when they didn't have private land, like they didn't even think about hunting. They didn't even think about public land. It just doesn't even occur. You see all this stuff. Oh, it's unsafe. You're never going to see any deer out there. There are deer out there, and there are big deer out there, and there's a lot of deer out there. Sometimes you just got to put in a little effort, a little work to try to understand what those deer are doing on that property. But yeah, that was one of the best rut hunts I've had where we didn't pull a trigger. I mean, we were covered up in deer all day. They were moving, and how that night ended up playing out is that buck ended up bedding down on us. So he came down to the creek, got within about 50 yards, started kind of working his way back. I gave one more grunt just to see, got him to stop a little bit, looked for probably 30 seconds to a minute, and then he just kind of worked back off into the woods. So I'm sitting there like, man, what is in there? There's something in there that's bringing all these bucks around, right? And so he beds down, and he's bedded at probably 130, 140 yards from us, and he beds basically till dark. But within 5 or 10 minutes of legal light, I see a doe stand up, probably 10 or 15 feet from him. So that whole time, I think he had a doe bedded in there. He was tending her. Those other bucks were probably smelling her in estrus, smelling her in heat, coming to investigate. Because at one point, Dakota, the hunter, texted me. She's like, I think 2 bucks are about to square off. It looked like they were kind of, starting to posture a little bit. Dude, she saw everything. Dang. They never ended up fighting, but they did that circle and dance where they kind of face each other. Yeah. So I think this whole time that doe was bedded in there. And the biggest mature one was in there tending her, and these other bucks just probably caught a scent of her and were coming down to see, if what was going on. But it was awesome, dude.
I was looking into that stomping. I never really understood. I mean, I always thought it was like an alert type of thing, like they make a noise. Like
I think does do, yeah.
But I was our last podcast we talked to the dog tracker and the deer tracker with the dog, but he was talking about that interdigital gland. And I looked it up, and he was saying that the dog is actually tracking the scent of that, but also like a shot deer is releasing a different smell, that's
not surprising, a different hormone.
And then through me looking at that, a distress. Yeah, they are actually doing that when they stomp. They're using that digital gland to put down a scent of alertness, and like it's really weird. But weird. So they're like almost like marking like being scared or something.
That's interesting.
So it's a combination of, I'm sure it's a combination of everything.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing. But right. When they're doing
it's just an innate behavior.
They're putting down a smell of alert, of distress.
That's interesting. I mean, I buy that.
Something else to help bust you. So not just the noise, but also the freaking marking it with scent that's going to scare other deer off too.
Little graffiti tag.
Yeah.
This way.
But that's that's a good mentored hunt, man.
It was
on that spot.
It was awesome. And again, this was a hunt that I gave away at hunt camp. So if you're interested in partaking in a mentor hunt like this, I'm going to offer the exact same hunt next year. I called it basically a Central Illinois rut hunt, and we'll do the same thing. I can't obviously guarantee a harvest, but I'll do my best to put you into a hunt that's fun, enjoyable, and that you'll get to see stuff that you've never seen.
Yeah, when you sent me the video, I think I wrote back, Dan, I need a mentor.
It was a blast. It was a fun day. Learned a lot. I think she learned a lot. Yeah, it was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said it sounded like she's pretty fired up and just like
had a good
time. So that's good.
That's awesome. Anyone else have any other stories they want to share? I know you guys have been getting out.
Not for deer, not really.
I'll say I haven't done any deer.
Oh, you guys haven't done anything with deer. Okay, well then I'll do my deer stories then.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've had a bit. I've only gone out a handful of times, like maybe even like 5-6 times, which usually I've
yourself
double that. Yeah, by myself. And it's been a comedy of errors, I would say. So I've been getting out like 5 minutes too late. I've been pulling in and seeing guys at their trucks or leaving their trucks and in the field that are walking in the direction that I would be walking.
Oh, you're seeing like their headlamp.
Yeah, like a headlamp walking away. I'm just like, yep. So that's what happens when you got to drive 40 minutes to your spot and you just don't make it out in time. So I've been going to either the spot that I wanted to go was either open or I had to go to a backup spot. And so I went to one. The first time I went out, I saw 2 bucks together. It was probably like November 2nd. And I saw two little bucks together, and then I saw a mature buck come down, go into a thicket. He went into a bush, and even though I was in a stand, I never saw him pop back out again. And so I was down along the river.
It's so amazing how much they can sneak into stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're finally into thick stuff and you see them actually go into it, you realize
you can only see them when they're moving. The second they stop, even if you're staring at them, it's like they just vanish.
And that's why you need to convince yourself that there could be 1,000 deer in front of you at any given time. Like you're like, they could be popping out at any time. You need to be on edge. And that's why I can sit. People are like, I don't know how I can sit in a stand that long. It's like, because I can trick myself to think that I'm like, oh, you must think about all kinds of stuff. I'm like, I'm thinking about where's movement. Yeah. I'm like, I'm focused on
movement, horizontal lines. And,
yeah. So that soft focus that you talk about, looking for that horizontal line and ear twitch. So didn't see much then. I saw that I've seen more mature bucks this year than ever before. I've gone out less than ever before.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. So I'm just taking what we teach and applying it.
It works, doesn't it?
And then it works. So it turns out we know what we're talking about. So good for us. So so I went and I looked at a travel corridor along a river. And I saw the 3 bucks that day. And then I went back to that spot and then I saw a doe move through the thick stuff that day. And then we went out and we actually, I should mention this too. We went out and I had a crossbow break on me too this year. So we went out and we pulled the crossbow back, put it next to the car for just to get stuff out of the car. And then all of a sudden I hear popping and crackling. I look down and I got like one video of the last piece breaking off. And it didn't happen all at once. It was like, almost like an Indiana Jones movie, like a rope bridge breaking, like it was like a pop, just like pop, 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 and then the right side of the crossbow caved in, and then I had to unarm it, so I had to take my pull-up string for that I would pull the bow up with, and I ran that through the trigger guard. And then I tried to do the old Mythbusters where you could pull the trigger with a rope
from afar.
Yeah, to try to just get away. Because I didn't know
there's a lot of energy in that thing.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's going to explode or what.
Especially since they're fiberglass shard. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to be away from it as far as I could. So I did that, and then I realized that you got to put a bolt in the thing to fire it off. Because of safety. So I put it in a safe direction towards the ground, kind of. It was like an uphill thing, so I knew if it hit, it's going to hopefully go into the ground. If it ricochets, it will go into a field. So then I put it that way, and then I put a bolt in. I put my decocking bolt in, and then I did the same thing again, and then it fired off. And then so then that we couldn't go out that day. And then so this is where I started making this mistake that I've never made before, which was the next day I went out. And luckily I went back the next morning to go out by myself and got to my stand. And then I realized I didn't have my pull-up rope. And I'm like, I can't get up to my stand. I can't.
Because you had to use it for your...
Yeah. So then I'm like, where the hell did I put that thing? So then I'm like, well, I was looking around. I'm like, I could either hunt on the ground or go up. And I'm like, I really can only hunt the spot up in a tree. So I left all my stuff and I tailed it back to the car. And every step I take, it's getting lighter and lighter. And I'm just kicking myself more and more. I'm just like, son of a gun. So I went and... I remembered I never put the rope back in the car because it was all the excitement of firing off the bow.
Being safe and
I forgot I put the string down next to the parking lot and I went back. I'm like, by the time I got back there, I remembered that and it was sitting in the same spot I had the night before. So luckily I got my string back. So I forgot that time. And then, so then after that, I was hunting that same spot over and over again. So then I decided to try something new. Went to another spot and got there. And this was after we went waterfowl hunting, which we'll talk about, I guess, in the waterfowl section. But I'd taken all my crap out of my bag to go waterfowl hunting. Went up to another spot, which was way farther away from the car than the other spot was. And I got to where I wanted to go. And then I realized I didn't have my rope again because I took it out of my bag to go waterfowl hunting. So 2 times this season I got into a tree I wanted to go up and I couldn't go up. And then that time I sat. What's that?
You need an extra rope, like on your.
I need an extra rope. You need an extra rope.
You need to just be like, hey.
What I need is an extra bag. I need a waterfowl bag and a deer bag, and don't mix them.
Yep.
And always double check before you flip and leave the house. But
it's hard at 3 a.m, though,
dude. Yeah. So then, and we actually went waterfowl hunting that day, and I was still in my camo, so I went home, ate lunch, and I'm like, it's a nice day out. And it's right. Let's go deer hunt. So that afternoon, I went deer hunting, and then I sat on the edge of a field that evening, and I found a tree. I just took the top of my tree stand because it was all a scrub around, and it was all really cruddy trees anyway. Like you couldn't sit in a tree stand in any of these trees because it was all freshly grown up trees. And so I found a tree that I could at least fit my stand on that wouldn't wobble back and forth. Like it was very, very small. Like I would never climb up this tree, but I sat on it just with my top seat.
Yeah, just like right off the ground. Yeah.
So then I was sitting there, and like right around 4:30, like I think the sun set at 4:45. At 4:30, I look to my left, and I see a silhouette of a black body of a huge buck with just white. I couldn't see its body at all. It was this black silhouette and just white.
Just
and
antlers.
It walked in right where I would have been in a tree. I'm like, darn it. And then I grunted twice, and I didn't know. And then I thought it'd walk its way down along to the outside.
Just follow that edge.
Just follow that edge down to my left, and I never saw it again. And then I walked out of there, and I kicked like 3 or 4 deer out of the field. They were just in a different spot of the field I was sitting on that I couldn't see because trees were in the way. And then my last time I went, I did an all-day sit last week for rut, and I saw, like, I mean, as I would have planned it. Brand new spot. All these spots I've sat. The first time I sat was when I saw mature bucks. After that second time or third time I sat, I either didn't see anything or I saw a doe.
Those mature ones, they pick up on it quick. I really think that. I mean, they don't get old by being stupid.
Yeah.
They have to survive somehow. Yeah.
And this one, I actually tried to go somewhere else. I pulled into a parking lot, and there was a car there already. And I'm like, all right, the past couple times I've seen cars and I've driven away and not even talked to anyone. I'm just like, I'm just going to give them their space. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, it's Tuesday morning. Like, this stinks. Like, I took off today. Like, can I see where this guy's even going? So I pull in. I'm like, hey, buddy, where are you going? It's this very old man. And he's just like, oh, I'm going to the end of this ridge. And I'm just like, yeah, right, that bedding area there. And he's like, yep. And he's like, literally, he's like, that's
where you're going to be.
I'm like, that's where I was going to go. And he's like, I haven't been in there yet. And I told him, like, well, if you go all the way to the end of this ridge, at the end of this bedding area, there's a cow path of a deer trail. Like, this head up, keep going to the end of this ridge. I'm like, there's a 200-foot cliff back there. Don't fall off of it, though. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, well, good luck. And he's like, yeah, sorry. And I'm like, yeah, no problem, bud.
Part of it.
I'm like, I'll go somewhere else. So then I went
first
somewhere
come,
else.
First serve.
And I've been 5 minutes late all season.
From again. Don't know what happened.
I know. I should have went back to make sure his car was gone.
He says, bump it off the competition. Give it a run.
Keep going until you hear a splash. So, dude, I went to another spot. And then this spot, right at first light, I saw a very mature buck come down. He was working across. But I had one spot. It was in very thick cover. And it's what we call our buck nest. Mm-hmm. I have one spot to my right that's open where a big trail could be. And instead of coming down that trail, he went down my left, and there was just branches and everything else. I have a video of that. I'll show you. I can throw that up easily, and you just see all the different twigs.
The snags.
And he came walking right down. He came to 13 yards away from me. And I mean, every time I think about him, he just gets bigger and bigger. I don't know how big he was, but he was big enough to shoot. And then he just went and walked away, and I never saw him again the rest of the day. Right after him, like within 15 minutes, I saw him, and then I saw Spike walk across and then go out into the river on an island. And then I saw even a bigger buck, like a cow with antlers on it, and it was 60 yards away. And going from my right to my left, I saw about 30-yard section of woods that he walked through with his nose to the ground. Never saw him again the rest of the day. I sat there from sunrise to sunset, and those were the only deer I saw all day. So that was my hunting season so far. So
you didn't see a deer after what, like 8:30?
After 8:30, didn't see nothing. And then I was trying to convince myself. I knew the theory of like, midday,
yep.
stay awake. You'll be all right. We'll see what happens. And I've sat there in the evening before, and I've seen deer in the evening there too. So it was a good morning and evening spot. But I was kicking myself. I'm like, dang, I should have went back to that field where I saw that big buck in the evening.
Yeah.
You know, it's good.
You're always second guessing.
I know. There's
That's
somewhere.
hunting.
There's somewhere
there's
else.
somewhere.
They're not
there's
here.
Somewhere. Yeah.
So that's been my deer season so far.
But yeah, firearm season's coming up in a couple days. I know I have a public land tag. You do as well.
Yeah.
So should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers crossed.
Yep. So what other type of hunting you all been up to, you weirdos?
Waterfowl time. You know, it's we had our first big mentor. Well, not our first. You all did a mentor duck hunt, but we had our first mentor duck hunt down at Gander Hill Goose Club, which is in Pinckneyville, Illinois. Really good place for waterfowl down there. Obviously, there's a ton of habitat around. Really good spot. Only problem is it's only a good spot once the migration has actually kicked off. And wouldn't you know it, the duck season in the South Central Zone started on November 16th. Nobody told the ducks. They didn't get the memo, something. They weren't around. We had a pretty slow hunt. We, probably saw a little over a dozen ducks all day. There just was not a lot of ducks around. We had one duck worked perfectly, fairly early in the morning. Our guy we were hunting with called at him, and he was right on a string, just perfectly came in right to the blind. It was the perfect shot you could have ever wanted. And all three mentees got up and unloaded their guns, and we got 0 ducks. So that duck, he kind of, I think he took a pellet. He might have took a pellet, but we did not retrieve him, unfortunately, and that was our one opportunity. So the good news on that is that waterfowl, unlike things like pheasant and deer, these non-migratory, boring critters, there's always more ducks coming. And so, the season started off slow, but we know they're on their way. And if you look at your weather, don't look at weather in Illinois. That's not the important thing. Look at the wind in Illinois. Go to windfinder.com is my favorite wind app because it's going to show you what the wind's doing over the whole countryside. You can see you want arrows pointing from basically the prairie pothole region to us in Illinois, and that's what we have all this week. All this week, we've got favorable migration winds. We're coupling that with, for the first time, really for an extended period of time, South Dakota, North Dakota, getting down into the low 20s. So a lot of these shallow water marshes, a lot of these water sources that the ducks are using are going to start freezing up this week, about Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's going to really start encouraging these ducks to move. So some ducks are moving. I know folks in northern Illinois getting into a few, but down there in the South Central and in the South Zone, it's not even season yet. Got to go all the way almost to December. It's the end of November when the season opens down there. That's probably going to be better timing this year because everything's a little bit behind, but they are coming. And one good thing about the migration being delayed is that when it does kick off, it could get absolutely nuts for a while. And then, if we don't get bad enough weather to push them out, we could have good hunting for a while. So that's what we're going to hope for. Watch your weather, but it definitely looks like this week